So I was getting paid $200 to suck for like 4 minutes. Like, I'm sorry, I'm not gonna bitch about that, and I'm not gonna feel bad about that either.
So, here we go.
Hi, I'm Dolly. I am a industry entrepreneur, and I'm called Pretty and Paralyzed, and I'm from Toledo, Ohio. All right, well, I guess, like, I had a normal childhood. I had a great childhood. My mom was awesome. Like, my dad was absent, and I got a lot of brothers I didn't get to meet because my dad just, like, reproduced everywhere he went before me, and then he got a girl and got his tubes tied. So I think we were up to, like, 12 at last count brothers, and I'm the only girl and I'm the baby. There's only one brother that's full-blooded, and the rest are my dad's kids, and pretty much none of us know him. I know him because I was a runaway from, like, 12 to 18. And, well, I ran away when I was 14, and that's when it became a very constant runaway because I got in a high speed chase. Yes, I was driving down a country road and actually had like 4 different police stations have to follow me because of how long of a high speed chase I took them on. But I was captain of the cheerleading squad, so that was obviously a problem. I got kicked off, and as soon as I got kicked off, I quit going to school. I quit coming home because there was no point. Why did I have to be at my mom's house? You know, I could go wherever and do whatever. I thought I was like grown at 14. And they got to the point they were going to charge my mother because I wasn't going to school. So she had to call me in as a runaway. So they brought me home, and as soon as they brought me home, I literally went upstairs, climbed out the window, and was gone again. The cops were still downstairs, and I was gone. The longest I stayed gone was probably like 9 months, and that was a rough one. I was 17. And I remember it being so rough. I was drinking like the whole time and popping Coracetin pills. And I was just remember calling my mom after my 18th birthday, so tired, like, I'm going to kill myself or come get me. I'm going to turn myself in. Which they just let me out the next day because it was a juvenile warrant and it was unruly. I just wasn't old enough to not be at home. And, you know, I did pretty good for like a year and a half, but started selling weed, and they say it's a gateway drug, and yeah, well, selling it starts you smoking it again, and then of course, then I got back on coke, and then I pulled somebody out of a crack house, and then ended up in a crack house with her by the time I was 19. You know, so never have been in adult treatment. As a juvenile, they put me in treatment to the point that my mom's insurance ran out by June every year, and another, I think a group called Cluster would cover them putting me in a residential home or a halfway house or something as soon as they took me out. And then they actually started putting me in adult treatment as a juvenile because they realized how serious my problem was. Because by the time I was 18, I had been on everything, and tripping on acid was my favorite thing, but I was never on only one thing. I'd be doing everything. And then I was a functioning addict, so I would keep a job at the same time. And I only had 3 jobs, but I was there for years, all of them, before I got hurt. And I think, you know, when I worked at Chrysler Jeep, that's when I got really into opiates. When I was 29, I found out I had osteoarthritis in my hip, and my first flare up, I couldn't walk for 9 months. Had gone to the hospital 6, 7 times. They just kept telling me it was a pulled muscle. I was a gymnast for 11 years. I know what a pulled muscle is. You know, so finally a doctor was like, it's not normal. You're 29 and you just woke up and couldn't walk, because that's exactly what happened. He's like, we're going to admit you and figure out what's going on. So they did, and it was arthritis. And probably from working on concrete 20-hour shifts. Like the day that before I couldn't walk, I worked a 24-hour shift because it was the last day of the week. Or, yeah, because I had Sunday off. So I'd work, you know, Saturday from 5:30 in the morning till 5:30 Sunday morning. And I couldn't even walk out of the building. So when I went to sleep and woke up, I couldn't get up to go pee. So they put me in pain management. And I was on Roxy's, just a low dosage, like 5 milligrams. But, you know, they'd be gone in a week because I was snorting Oxy 80s already to get rid of the pain. So, and Oxys were so openly available, and they were only like $20 a piece inside of Chrysler. You know, all the old timers and everybody was on it. And I'd go to skilled trades in the maintenance cage, and they'd have lines out, and it was always Oxys. So, I mean, it was normal. And my supervisors were asking me for pills. Like, at least 4 or 5 of them bought pills off me because they knew I could find them. So, I got really into it. And then with my leg being like that and me not being able to walk, I had the union put in for, what's the word? Medical leave. And they terminated me. Well, they suspended me indefinitely pending investigation for sleeping on the job. And they had a picture of somebody covered up in their boots showing. First off, I had white Skechers tennis shoes that I bought, like steel-toed tennis shoes. I bought like 6 pairs when I first started working there, so I only ever wore those. So obviously it was a bullshit picture, But yeah, so I ended up having to fight, got my unemployment, but I didn't continue to try to fight to get my job back. I just kind of was like, yeah, because I couldn't walk anyways. What was I gonna do? I can't walk into court. I can't, It was just gonna end up a mess for no reason. So obviously, I didn't have the money for oxys. I did make like 450 a week on my unemployment, but I was living in a hotel at the time when this happened, and that was 200 of it every week. So $200 for somebody that snorts 4 oxy 80s in a day. That's 2 days into it, I'm freaking broke. So obviously, one of my friends brought over some black tar heroin, and I snorted it. Threw up right away, just instantly. Bleh. But I felt better because I had been dope sick for 3 days, not having any pills. And that was the start of that. After the races, started with doing only a 20 of it a day, snorting it. When I got up to snorting a quarter ounce of it a day, I started secretly shooting it. Nobody knew, but everybody around me was already shooting it. And it's weird because we all started in our 30s. And it was all about the same time around 2010, 2012. Like all the people I'd grown up with, which they were good kids too, and most of them got led there through painkillers also because it's cheaper and more readily available. So, then of course the overdoses started too. So overdose after overdose after overdose. I I think like 9 people overdosed in one of my houses, and I saved every last one of their lives. And then fentanyl hit, and it just took out almost everybody. There's been actually 2 people that have died in this house when I was sleeping, and at least 2 dozen I've Narcan. Yeah, at least 2 dozen I've Narcan. One of them was a guy I was with on and off for 19 years, and he ordered coke when I was sleeping because he lived here with me, and I woke up to him dead on the floor. They had given him fentanyl. And I had been clean at that point for 3 years. And this was 2019. Yeah, 2019. And I took the rest of the gram that was sitting there and snorted the whole thing. I had already called EMS and told them, there was somebody deceased here. So there's like 15 people in this room, and nobody notices that I'm dying over on my bed because I didn't say anything. I was just crying hysterically. And then one of the EMS guys is like, "Is that normal?" They look over. I was in cardiac arrest. So not only did I overdose, I caused myself a freaking heart attack freaking out about this. So they Narcaned me 6 times, and I could hear, them say, "We can't do anything else. We can't give her any more. We can't give her any more." And my mom's freaking out. And she's like, "Open your eyes." I open my eyes, and he's like, "What did you take?" And I'm like, "Fentanyl." And the guy behind him was like, "Another one." And I looked at him like, "What do you mean a fucking another one?" It's like, this is like, fuck, dude. My dude's dead on the floor. Like, and you're saying another one? Because I didn't realize how bad the epidemic had already become. So they had to keep me for 3 days because so much fentanyl was in my system. They had to flush my body out with saline and Narcan because my heart just kept stopping and kept stopping. Which I'm surprised my mom didn't make me go to a nursing home then, because that obviously, it got me using again when he died. And I started buying a 20 a day of fentanyl. And then I started smoking crack again. So the one time, it was probably 3 months after this happened, I'm smoking crack with one of my friends. I'd done a bump right when she got here. Perfectly fine. Smoke with her for like 2 hours. And then as soon as she leaves, like 5 minutes later, my brother walks in to ask me if I could get him any crack. I wasn't breathing. As soon as the crack had worn off, the fentanyl from 2 hours before, I overdosed. So since that was only a couple months later, my mom kind of understood the first one. Like, not that she agrees with it, but she kind of gave me some leeway because of what happened, and she knew how much I cared about Greg. So the second time, no. She said I had to be clean for 30 days before I came back, so she put me back in a nursing home. Well, one of my friends didn't like that, so 18 days later, he takes me out, and I had it in my head I was going to go back to being clean. I go into a house with people using meth, crack, Betty, everything, and had no warning that I was going to have people around me just doing this shit, and my bed is downstairs where everybody hung out at. So I had this shit around me all the time, and of course, it didn't take freaking long. Right back on it. And then, probably like a year later, I got. Wait, let's go back to before I even got hurt. After I got fired, I went probably like 2 months after I got fired. Somebody told me that my grandma died, and it had been 2 weeks prior. They had the memorial and everything without me because they didn't want to tell me because they were afraid of what I would do. Because my grandma, my mom raised me. I had her in my life, my whole life, like directly in my life. And yeah, they should have thought about what I was going to do because they didn't. I jumped into a truck with a trucker, and he rode produce from Levine, Michigan down to Miami every week. And I told him I was just going to get out of the truck somewhere, and when I took my bag, I'm not coming back. So in West Palm Beach, jumped out, took my bag, I was gone. By the next day, I was in Pompano. 3 days later, I was in Fort Lauderdale. I stayed there for about a month with an ex-pimp. And then he started to get on me because I wouldn't fuck him every day for free. So I had him drop me off at Miami at this girl's house that he went to get drugs for us. But me and the other two girls that stayed with him, I just had him drop me off with her because I figured, hey, at least I won't be dope sick because I have freaking money. I might have a house, but I was already homeless here in Ohio before, so what's the difference? At least I can go to a beach if I want to. So, the girl's name was Tatiana. She's a very, very pretty girl. I think she was Cuban and white. Very pretty girl, but tiny as shit. Just, everybody used to tell me that she was absolutely gorgeous and thick as hell and had a mouthful of golds, and then she got really far into drugs, and she was literally skin and bones, and I had found out she was HIV positive. So, and in the area I was in, down there in Overtown, I mean, they had buses that drove around weekly to do testing. They'd pay you $50 to get tested just because Hep C and HIV has ran so rampant through the area with people sharing drugs and unprotected sex because it's such a high prostitute and drug use area that they had to do something about it. They started a needle exchange down there before it was even heard of anywhere else. Because in 2012 they had one when I was down there, and I was like, I can just go get the needles now. Like up here, I could buy them, but down there, you couldn't buy them in a Rite Aid like you could up here. But so yeah, they decided to just give you all fresh shit, which makes sense because people are going to do it regardless. And if they don't have a needle, which is my number one pet peeve, is people that share freaking needles. I don't care if you're in a relationship or what. Like, there are things that are like you can pass on by blood. You cannot pass on by just kissing somebody, and that bloodborne pathogens are a lot different. But yeah. So, anyways, I was down there, and what was I gonna say? So, I moved in with Tatiana, and she was a prostitute. So, obviously, right back to doing what I was doing on the streets up here, anyways, because I was walking on the east side of Toledo, and pretty much everybody knew me on the east side. And when they see me start walking, they could not believe it because they knew me to sell drugs. They didn't know me to do drugs and, do shit like that. But I just had been at my wit's end, and I just wanted to get high. I did not care about a place to live. I just was done. I wanted to get fucking high. So, lo and behold, I ended up walking the street. And I probably made $500 to $700 a day. And it was gone by the time I woke up. Every single day. I mean, I shared with a couple people, but for the most part, I was just nonstop shooting and smoking and shooting and smoking and doing a lot of crack and a lot of fucking heroin. Well, anyways, then back to being down in Miami. So, I go back to doing dates. Like 2 days after I was there, one of the girls showed me where to go walk down there, down Biscayne and, over through Overtown, like what streets are the best ones to get dates on, and I literally got picked up in 15 minutes and had $100 in my pocket 4 minutes later. And after the fucking races again, the only difference, like, I was homeless for a long time, but I had gone and rented a room for $400 out of the area over Midtown. So I had somewhere to go that nobody knew where the hell I was at, and I could just get away from the 50,000 people that live on that street. You know, like, I couldn't go to sleep without having things literally, like, in my pussy so they did not fucking disappear. Like, if there was money even in my bra, it'd be gone when I woke up. Like, and yeah, I was gonna have that. But yeah, so I was back to walking the streets and back to doing that, and I had walked into a dope house that was red bag, and the guy was passed the fuck out, and all the dope and money was on the floor. I look around, there's nobody, and I was like, okay. I picked up the dope, I picked up the money, and I took his phone, and I sold the rest of the dope. And I called his boss, like, I need to re-up. He's like, who the fuck are you? I said, I'm the one selling your dope now. Now, in that area, it's unheard of because it's all Cubans and Haitians. So when he seen I was a white girl, he was really, like, off until I handed him all the money. And he was like, there's $5,000 here. You only owe me $1,500, and hands me back $3,500. And he was like, you work for me now. I said, I noticed. So I was working his dope bag for probably like a year and a half. When I wasn't at work, I did 12-hour shifts. So when I wasn't at work, I was still out walking, making more money just because I became so addicted to money on top of being addicted to drugs. Like, I had to have X amount of dollars or I was broke, you know? And well, that led me to meeting this guy named Jimmy, which everybody wanted Jimmy because Jimmy had worked the docks for like 25 years and retired. So he had a very hefty pension check. So, of course, all the girls wanted Jimmy. I wanted nothing to do with him. He would come and bring me flowers and tell me every day he's going to make me his and everything else. And I just laugh at him and walk away. I wouldn't even take the flowers. But he kept trying and trying and trying. And persistence, I tell you, it gets me every freaking time. I get worn down. So I told him, I was like, I will go out to dinner with you. That's it. You know, that's it. He was like, where do you want to go? I said, I'm not going in a restaurant. We're going to go to Checkers and you can get me a milkshake. He was like, you don't want like anything? I said, I want a milkshake. So we walked over to Checkers and we were talking. And I told him, all right, I got to go work. And I just took off from Checkers, left him there. And I don't know if it's because he wanted something that he couldn't have or what it was. And he just kept on me. And I ended up thinking it was endearing and sweet, you know? And so I gave him a chance. And he was very, very emotionally and verbally abusive. He had never set a hand on me until it was Valentine's Day 2017. I had broken up with him prior to that, and I had actually moved 2.5 hours away from Overtown in Miami to get the fuck away from him. Because every time I tried to leave him, he would literally walk all over town until he found me and would be like, all right, come home. And would not leave until I left with him. Like, I tested that theory, and for 2 days, he was just standing outside of where I was at, just waiting. He was not going to leave. And I was like, all right, whatever. And I moved this time. Well, I go to the gas station on Valentine's Day 2017, and whoop, there's Jimmy. I just look at him. He's like, come home. I'm like, I have a home. Thank you. Walked in, got what I wanted, walked out. And if I would have been smart enough to realize there were 3 pops all clustered together right where he was sitting and stood up at. So he had been there a very long time waiting for me. You know, so he obviously was bound determined to get me to come home. So that night, I'm not thinking anything about him. I had just got him on my thoughts, thought, you know, nothing of it. Well, my house was under construction, so there was a big dumpster outside. I lived in a cul-de-sac. And I walked out of the house, took the fucking garbage over there, and I went to go throw it in the dumpster, and it was boom, first hit to the back of my neck with a crowbar. And by all time all was said and done, I probably went unconscious after about 25, 30 blows. The surgeon counted 50 strike marks. I had like 30 broken bones. My spine was just shattered. 3 vertebrae were shattered. My spinal cord was partially severed. My eye socket was broke. My jaw was broken 3 places. My shoulders were broke. I had ribs that were broke. I was just thrashed. And he even went as far to drag me because the back of the cul-de-sac, there were some abandoned railroad tracks right behind it that was not lit up at all. Drag me about 3 house lengths onto those railroad tracks and leave me. So when I woke up a couple hours later, I'm freaking out and I have no idea how hurt I actually am. And people are telling me that it was shock how I could do this, but I called 911 and I tell them what's going on, and they couldn't find me. The ambulance could not find where I was at. So I started walking towards the light, like lights. How can you walk with all that shit broken? And, well, I did. And obviously got in the ambulance and they put a neck brace on me. They're like, you'll be okay. Take me to the hospital. And I'm just in so much pain and I don't realize how bad it is yet. They put me in a CT scan and because they couldn't get the right angle because my neck was like this, they took my neck brace off. And when my neck went back, my arms and my legs quit moving. I could not move them. So I start screaming and freaking the fuck out. And still screaming and shit. I go back and I'm asking for some more pain meds after this test. We're not giving you any more. Like I'm here just seeking drugs and I'm beaten to a pulp. And a surgeon comes running in. You're going into emergency surgery now. Okay, what's going on? He's like, you're just broken. He's like, I don't know how you're alive. I don't know how you're talking. I don't know how you're breathing. As soon as he said that, I stopped breathing. So I was in surgery for 21 hours. And when I came out, they gave me just less than a 10% chance to live. They found my mom on Facebook about 3 weeks later. But when I woke up in my recovery room, because they had woke me up, because they kept putting me in a coma and taking me out, and putting me in a coma and taking me out, because they were afraid I'd stay in it if they kept me in it too long. When I woke up, the guy that did this to me was in my recovery room. He had said that he was my husband, and I couldn't do anything but blink my eyes. I could not communicate in any way, shape, or form. I had 8 machines keeping me alive and a trach in my throat. So I just am thinking, he's here to kill me. Like, he's going to finish this shit off so he doesn't go to prison. And no, he just starts apologizing. I don't like, did you accidentally hit me that many fucking times with a crowbar? Like, this isn't like you tripped me when I was walking down, the street. The fuck? And he was in there. It was about 3 weeks before they found my mom. But the day that my mom walked in, they found her on Facebook. And she was down there 4 hours later. And when she walked in, it didn't take long. She noticed a look in my eyes that there was something extremely wrong with him being there. And so she went and got a nurse. The nurse comes in and asks him to leave. They had a procedure to do. And they hadn't done that. Asked him to leave when they were doing stuff because they thought it was my husband. And she just straight asked me. She's like, blink once for yes, twice for no. Is that the man that hurt you? And yep, one blink. Well, she went to call the police. He was already freaking gone. He knew something was going on. Hadn't left for 3 weeks. He even had the same damn clothes on. And yeah, he knew something was going on as soon as they asked him to leave the room. So, but the police had taken a report when I was in the ER. So a detective comes to see me, and the detective tells me that they lost the report. That he needed me to give another report. I can't write. I can't talk. I can't communicate. I can do yes or no questions. He's like, oh, you have 2 years, so, you recover enough to, here's my number. And I'm just thinking in my head, are you fucking serious? How do you lose a police report of, like, attempted fucking murder? I'm like, oh my fucking God. I didn't know what to do. I didn't. I had no fucking clue. And, I just kept hearing the doctors tell my mom to pull the plug. It's inhumane to keep me alive. I got 100% brain function and 99% of my body is just paralyzed. And my mom just keeps saying, my daughter's a fighter. She'll come back. And they were asking every single day. Well, they noticed me kind of making noises one day that I hadn't been making. And they're like, we think that your voice box is unparalyzed. So we want to put a voice box thing on your trach hole and see if you can talk. Well, they deflated this little like balloon in there and they put it on there. I felt like I was suffocating. Like they could see the panic on my face when they took it right out. And I noticed a couple days later that I could talk right out of my trach hole. So I looked at the respiratory therapist and was like, can I talk? And he just almost hit the freaking floor. but he almost hit the freaking floor. There's 20 doctors in my room, like, talk to us. And I'm like, fuck you guys for putting my mom through this and trying to fucking kill me every day. And then I told my mom I loved her because those were the first things I could say. But so I was in that neurosurgery ICU, I think for 11 months. They asked me what I wanted to do because I had mentioned coming back to Ohio. So I had them fly me back to a step down ICU here. But my Medicaid hadn't transferred, so there was only really like one I could go to. And that would be Advanced Specialty Hospital, which was great. I loved it. But after I was there for 4 or 5 months, I had to go to skilled nursing to continue, my recovery. They forced me into advanced. They have a nursing home attached to it. There's just like a greenhouse in the middle of the two between the specialty hospital. And the nurses had already warned me, like, we know you well enough to know that you're not going to like it there. Oh, yeah, it was like a 1-star facility. They're facing 2 murder charges right now. But they just were something else. I had so many problems there, so many. They had taken me out of therapy and I was in a standing frame, developing my leg muscles. I mean, I had already showed them, like, when I first was at the specialty hospital, I can move my hand back and forth like this. By the time 6 months came, I had full use of my arm. Like, I was really weak because it had been well over a year since those muscles were used, but they could put a strap and I could actually have a spoon and I could feed myself, and that's a big deal because they were giving me like 6 bowls of cereal when they had to feed me, and thickened water and all that good stuff. So, I could feed myself, but I was getting movement and stuff back. So when I went over to the nursing home, and I was doing so good in therapy that the physical therapist was like, we want her to do an hour a day, 5 days a week, and submitted it to insurance. Administration, because the administration had so many problems, knocked it down and took me out of therapy for plateauing. How did I plateau if he's saying I'm doing so good he wants more time with me? I had to fight for 5 months to get back in therapy, and by the time I did, because they did not give me splints for my hands or boots for my feet, my foot had dropped too much. I couldn't go back in the standing frame. So I really, really feel like they have more than hindered my recovery because I have movement back in this leg now. I could have been walking. And because they think they're doctors, not just caretakers, yeah. And the administration, I think, called the police on me like 6 times in 2 weeks. And in all fairness, one, I was selling pills. So, yeah, that was me. That was my fault. That was all me. But, I mean, they only get like $50 of their money. So, giving up a pill or two a day, they get $10 or something to do something with every day that they gave me a fucking Percocet to sell. And there was a nurse next door that was buying all of them from me every day. So, I mean, I didn't even make shit off of it. I had ones that I sold of my own I made money off of. But, some of them people, $50 a month doesn't even buy a carton of cigarettes anymore, and they have smoke breaks. What are they supposed to smoke, man? Like, I don't get it, but I don't see why people don't get more, why they have insurance paying for these rooms and shit, why they have to give up their whole freaking check, too. That is just amazing to me. They have to give up everything. Their home, their cars, their everything they have to give up. And yeah, here, we're going to take what we give you to live, too. So what happens when you need new clothes, or if you want to buy a gift for somebody, or the fuck? It doesn't make sense for people that work their whole life to have to give that check up. I didn't have to for the first 2 years, so they actually had to reimburse 5 months that they took my check because they had passed a law that if you're freshly new on Medicaid, you got your check for 2 years. Or yeah, Medicaid, not Medicare, and I had Medicaid, so everything lined up with me having long-term disability and everything else. They had to issue me a check for 5 months, which I made more than $1,500 a month. So they were pretty fucking pissed that they had to reimburse that because now I'm costing y'all money. You're not making money off me anymore. So Yeah, but yeah, they had called the cops. I assaulted a nurse. Oh God, what all? They had me for impending patient care because I made them send out a patient whose foot was black, and I advocated for a lot of patients, and I would go to bat because if the cops came, I didn't give a shit. They can't take me anywhere. They can't fucking transport me. They can't house me. You know, when I got caught doing drugs, and they're like, don't do drugs, don't sell drugs. Like, well, what are they gonna do about it? Absolutely nothing. You know, so. Anyways, I ended up getting, because of all those police reports that they had, it was called an immediate discharge, which meant I was supposed to go to the first nursing home that they found in Ohio that would take me. None of them would. So I had a one-on-one aide for 71 days. I had 24-hour around-the-clock supervision, which happened to be my friends that I hung with outside of the facility on weekends and watched movies with their kids and shit. But yeah, it was my friends watching me 24 hours a day. And then they finally wavered me home because they had no choice. No one would take me because I looked like Mallory Knox on paper. So, yeah, they wavered me home. So I actually got to come home in October of 2019. So 2 years later, 2.5 years later. So 2.5 years in the hospital. So, but it only took like a year for me to, overdose and everything else, get right back into using. And it's been a never-ending battle, back and forth, back and forth. If I use, if I don't use, and most of it involves my pain. And it's kind of sad that people look at me like, you have an excuse. I have an excuse to be a drug addict? I'm not prescribed these, but everybody just, it's okay. They just kind of like, it's okay. When I was doing fentanyl, it was okay because it helps my pain. Like, I don't see how it's any better me doing it because I'm hurt. A lot of people are hurt. A lot of people have pain. But people are like, oh, I don't blame you. If I were you, I'd do it too. Okay, well, when I was doing fentanyl again, though, since I've been like this, I just felt like I was playing Russian roulette. And it's just back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And it got me smoking crack again because I was afraid to overdose again. So, I always had to have meth or crack around. And it's just a never ending battle. But I've been an addict for, shit, 26 years at least. At least I'll say from 14, I started doing heavy drugs and a lot. So it's been 26 years and I'm only 40.
So you had some experience with prostitution down in Miami.
Yeah.
And then you come back after they send you back and you come back home and relapse again. What made you make that decision to get back into that? I'm sure that the habit of crack cocaine and opiates were
Well, I'm also a sex addict to top everything off. I was actually just hooking up with people online randomly. And one of the guys told me about Skip the Games. So I was like, well, shit. I'm already meeting strangers anyways and fucking them, so why not do it for money? And my habit really was off and on at that point. So, I mean, there were part of it, like my meds, I was still on Percocets from another doctor. I had found a doctor that would give me Percocets and had a nurse aide steal 17 of them, and he booted me out of pain management. And that's what started it real heavy again. But when I actually started on Skip the Games, I had those Percocets because opiates are my weakness. But yeah, it just started with that addiction with money and just to have it. And I was living with addicts that were always hitting me up for money and everything else. So, and if I didn't give it to them, they just steal something of mine. And what can I do about it? Can't get up and, hey, give that back. Yeah, it doesn't work like that. So yeah, you definitely find out who your friends are when shit's not bolted down and you can't go after them. But yeah. So I started on Skip the Games again, and when I first started, I probably only did a date every couple days here and there. But my short stay would start at $200. So for like 10 minutes with me, it was $200, and I would tell them right off rip, there's not full service, which is sex, on a short stay. So I was getting paid $200 to suck a dick for like 4 minutes. Like, I'm sorry, not going to bitch about that, and I'm not going to feel bad about that either, because, yeah, it got me the fuck out of that house. So, and then I started getting sick a lot. I started getting UTIs, and It wasn't from having sex. It was because I have a suprapubic catheter and they just come chronic. So then every month I was in the hospital once or twice, from 3 days to 3 months. One time I had to stay in for 3 months so they could run vancomycin because they found out I had osteomyelitis all through my body, which is a bone disease, and it didn't get rid of it. So, but while that was going on, that's when I started selling content. But I kind of started selling content because all the scary shit that had happened to me down in Florida and even up here. Like, I remember down in Florida, it was my birthday, and a real cute Mexican guy picked me up. And all I thought was, wow, I'm lucky. This guy is cute. This is going to be an easy one, right? He pulls over. Well, he goes, stops, get a condom, and then he pulls over, instantly a knife to my throat. I was like, fuck, I'm going to die. And he proceeded to rape me. He was actually going to anally rape me, too. And I just lied my way out of it, saying that if he did, I'd bleed to death. I have a this, that, and the other, like, like I have a pre-existing problem, and if he did do that. So he didn't end up doing that, but then he dumps me, like, on the side of the fucking road somewhere. And I remember just thinking, if I ever see him again, and I started, carrying protection in a way. And this girl went to go get in his truck, and this was months later, but I remember the truck, like, right away. It had very distinct characteristics that other trucks didn't have. So I was like, hey, that's my date. Girl just takes off, and I walk up like I don't know who he is. And we stop at the gas station. And after we pulled away from the gas station, I told him, hold on, I gotta pee, I gotta pee, I gotta pee. When I got out of the car, it was just, I'll never hurt another girl again. Ever. So, but it was scary. I had heard about the guy picking up a lot of other girls, and they just had knife marks, like they had been sliced everywhere fighting. Yeah, from the same guy. And there was one day I had a gun and a knife pulled on me. I had both. And I got out of one was the guy with a knife because he was making me suck his dick with a knife to my neck. I faked a bloody nose, and who wants a hooker's blood on your dick? So he starts looking for someone to wipe it up. I unlocked it, and now it's gone. And the gun, I lucked out with the gun. I really did, because he ended up killing 3 girls that night. But one of my friends had heard me scream, and he came running up and broke out the window, and the guy got scared and pulled off, and I jumped out while he was pulling off. All because my friend had broke the window. So, but I would have been his first victim that night. So, yeah.
What about here after you became hurt? After you came home, what's anything scary happened to you in this bed?
No, there's been some close calls, but I keep weapons very close to me. There has been. But if I see a certain look in a guy's eye that reminds me of the looks that the guys had down there in Miami, I'm just like, oh, this isn't going to work. You got to leave before they even get past that door. And I do have a panic button. And it literally takes them 2 minutes to get here. The fire station is right around the corner. So I've used the panic button. I've had to shoot at somebody. I've had a knife to somebody that's had a knife to me. So I mean, I've came pretty close, but I haven't actually got hurt here. So that's why I quit seeing so many people. I'll only really see people that I already know, because my mother lives in this house, and I don't want her to ever have to walk out here and see me hurt because of something like that, or them hurt her. So
how has the online content helped you grow your platform and make money, and some of the good and bad and strange stories about that?
Oh, content it comes with a lot of stuff too, because I offer sexting, webcam, phone sex, personal videos, personal photos. But guys, they have asked for some really weird shit. Like, really weird shit. One wanted me to fuck my classmate, like stoma, with the dildo for him on video. Had a guy want me to suck a dog's dick. I've had just some really weird shit. Like, there's some guys with some weird fetishes out here that I think they might need some help. And one thing I do refuse to do is preteen age play for any reason. Preteen age play, I will not act like a child for a man to use as an outlet. I'm sorry, it's not healthy, it's not better because at least they're not doing it as a child, they're practicing doing it to a child. So that's one thing I won't do is preteen age play. You know, acting like a 16-year-old girl is a little different, but yeah, no. That's my big no-no spot. Um, let's see. The abundance of men that want me to find another guy to help me suck their dick or them help me suck their, it's weird. There's a lot of guys that ask for that and pegging, and that's just, I just kind of look at them like, really? My legs don't work. What do you want me to do? Like, but they still manage to ask. I sell a lot of my underwear too. There's a lot of panty sniffers out here, a lot of them. So I'll offer it even after a webcam. And I've got paid $500 for my underwear. And it's weird because, like, the more ranked that they are, is like a lot of them want it that way. Because I'll explain my catheter issues and stuff. And can you send it after you pee yourself? What? Like, are you kidding me? I like the smell. Okay, gotcha, buddy. You're gonna pay for my next Sheen order of underwear, so I have a lot of guys that ask me content too, a lot from all over the country, and I'm like, you cannot afford to make content with me, but they don't realize that I have consent forms and shit that they have to sign. They have zero rights to these, and their face will be on it. There is no, oh, I don't want my face in it. Oh no, honey, there's faces in my content. And you have zero rights to it, zero rights to any of the money, and I actually have a legal form that they have to sign.
So talking about the money, what would you say you make?
In a bad month, I make 10 grand on content. In a good month, I think the most I've made is 35 grand in a month, which just paid off all my court fines and all that crap. I'm all caught up. So, which is keeping me out of going to the state hospital because I can no longer go to jail because they can't house me. They can't have 24-hour care. So they can't just put a nurse on me, and I'm too hurt to put an inmate to help because they will do that. So I go to the state hospital if I get in trouble. And I had 14 open cases downtown. And now my fines and all are paid. I still have to go clear them up, but I'm the only person I know that has one. I have a rolling judge. Due to the fact that I had 3 court cases in 3 different courtrooms at the same exact time one day because I got arrested 3 times in one day. They gave me one judge for absolutely everything, no matter what, because they said it wasn't fair to me to have all these different judges sentence me. So, and it's true, because, I mean, I've been arrested 3 times that day, so what, I ended up with a 30-day sentence, a 30-day sentence, and a 30-day sentence, which I did 90 days on. If I would have had one judge, they probably would have just gave me the 30 days, because they all maxed me out, because they were all, like, M4s and M3s, like so the max on them were 60 days or 30 days, depending on which charge it was. So, yeah, it wasn't fair to me. I had to sit for 3 months because I had a bad day, a really bad day. So, yeah, but I've been on every end of it. I had a cat house at Toledo, and the FBI they busted us. And they asked all the girls, who was in charge and everything else, and none of them told on me. I'm the only one that walked away. They all went down to county. I had them out of county within 4 hours. I had bonded them all out because they kept their frickin' mouth shut.
When was this after you got injured?
No, this was before. That's before I went to Miami. But yeah, I had a cat house. I sold drugs all over the country. I've been a lot of places doing a lot of illegal shit. It's actually kind of nice and peaceful here.
And I think that's a good segue to end. We talked before this, and you mentioned that you're so glad that your mom did not listen to them on pulling the plug.
Yeah.
You're glad that you're alive.
I am. She had asked me, did I regret my past? And I told her I wouldn't live through that if I wouldn't have gone through all that. So
if there was a message that you'd like to leave with anybody, what would that be?
Nobody's untouchable. This shit can happen to anybody. rich, poor. It can happen to anybody. It really can.
Is there anything that we can do, whether it's try to find some resources? I'm sure that you have a lot of resources, but if you are struggling with anything, is there anything that you need help with?
No, I have a lot of resources. I do. So, yep.
Any last words?
Stay humble. Yep.